Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to start with the new IB biology syllabus, which is announced in 2024, and the student who have joined IB program in August 2023 onward, they are going to write this exam, and the first assessment for this syllabus will take place in May 2025. So here I am with a description and the content of the topic we are going to discuss, and I have planned to upload all the notes as well as the discussion on the topic. So let's start with the first unit, that is A1, that is water. In this section we are going to talk about how water is acting as a medium, right? Medium for life, in which we will discuss about the properties, what kind of bonds they are making, right? What kind of why we are considering water as a appropriate, you can say, content or appropriate surrounding for life to originate. So we'll talk about that. In the next section, we'll talk about how one water molecule binds with another water molecule. There will be a hydrogen bond formation, so we'll talk about the conditions and what are the requirement for the formation of this bond. And we'll also talk about the formation of the single water molecule by covalent bond within it. Okay, we'll also talk about why there is a charge formation on oxygen and hydrogen. The next section of the topic will talk about the physical properties of the water, such as cohesion property of the water, which is a gift of hydrogen bond, and how this property is helping in the organism, right? Next, we'll talk about adhesion force, which is again uh, a kind of interactive property in which charged and uncharged molecules are you can say interacting, or there is affinity between two different surfaces, you can say, right? Then we will talk about the solvent properties, which helps to provide a condition for microbes or cell to perform their metabolic activity, and how it acts as a medium for transportation of the substance in plant as well as in water. This will be quite interesting when we will talk about surface tension. We'll talk about how water is going up into the tree, right? In a basic, not in elaborated form. Then we'll talk about how the physical properties of the water is helping aquatic animals to survive, right? We'll take an example of few organism in this section. For HL section, there is a two extra topic is given, that is how life is originated in terms of extraplanetary origin of water on earth and reason for its retention. And then we'll talk about Goldilocks zone and a relationship between the search of extraterrestrial life and the presence of water. So it looks very elaborative content as compared to the previous syllabus. The content was only confined to the properties, that's all. But in this section they have really added more content into it. So let's start the topic. Okay, so we'll first talk about water as a medium for life, right? So in this section we will talk about what kind of features water molecule have which facilitate medium for the life, right? So first of all, if you see the history, right, you will find that Earth has existed around, existed for 4.5 billion years ago, right? And you will find that water has existed on Earth around 3.8 billion years ago. And if you will connect with the life, right? So the first cell on Earth was originated 2000 million years ago in water, right? So you can imagine it it takes some time for the life to originate, right? Life is originated due to the formation of the biomolecules, and the water provide a medium for these molecules atoms to combine to interact, right, so that they can be the living substances. And there was lots of scientific debate during that time whether the life was in a pond or hydrothermal pool or sea. But there is no debate that water was present. So it quite obvious. Like you will come to know later on that even the human body. If you will see the content of water on Earth is around 80%. Content of water in human bodies again 70 to 80%. So within a body you are carrying one Earth, right? So imagine the connectivity between the life, human and Earth, right? Around 65%. You can take an range from 65 to 95% by mass of most multicellular organism is water. So you can imagine that water is very crucial and very important segment of life. And without water, it was not possible for the biomolecules to interact to form a living molecule such as DNA, which helps to produce protein in an organism, and that proteins start diversifying themselves to develop and to create lots of functionality in the cell, right? So it becomes very important that without water life was impossible to originate, right? Let's go ahead with the content. So first of all, water is a solvent, right? Now when I'm saying solvent, that means it can dissolve anything it can dissolve, right? So now the question is, to dissolve something, what kind of property water have which gifted this mixing ability? So if you see the bonding pattern and if you see the atoms which are present in this particular molecule, you will find that it is made up of hydrogen and oxygen, right? But you will see there is a difference in the charge. This charge difference is due to the electronegativity. Oxygen is more electronegative, that's why they have delta negative charge, and hydrogen is slightly electropositive. That is why you can see there is a delta plus charge, because the bonding pair of electrons are not equally shared between between oxygen and hydrogen. So due to this, there is a partial charge formation on the molecule, which makes it polar in nature. And this polarity helps to dissolve anything in the water, right? Like you can see, if you're trying to dissolve salt, which consists of NaCl, so sodium is again consists of um, plus and minus. right? So sodium is a positive because it's a metal. Chlorine is a non-metal, so it will develop negative charge. So when you will dissolve NaCl, this kind of uh, formation you will see. So water molecule create a boundary, will will cover the molecules, right? So you will find that chlorine is in the center, and all the water molecules having delta positive charge, that means hydrogen, they will surround the chloride ion, right? Because chloride ion is negative charge and hydrogen is positive charge, so it will attract and it will create a hydration cell. Same thing is happening to the positive charge, right? So sodium is positive charge, and you will find that all the negative charge of water molecules are covering it and making it a hydration cell, which helps in complete mixing, right? So water is a universal solvent, right? Just because of this property, and which makes a platform for all the biochemical reactions to occur inside the cell. So it's very obvious that, of course, to create a life, to sustain a life, we need a medium in which all the metabolic reaction will take place. So water provide that property. Okay, let's move to the next slide. So water is a metabolite. Now when we talk about metabolite, so that means it is it is see, generally the substance which is used up in the metabolism we call the metabolite, and water is a metabolite. You can say in many reactions, right? So either you can say as a reactant or as a product of a reaction, it will be used everywhere, right? So take an example, like in this diagram I can say we are combining something, so it's a condensation reaction going on. Whenever you will combine, of course water molecule is going to release. So water is released here in the form of product here, right? Now in this section you can see in the hydrolysis reaction, water is reacting. That means water is acting as a reactant. So water is acting as an important metabolite in metabolic reaction, where it helps in either condens condensation reaction or in hydrolysis reaction, right? So condensation reaction will take place generally where there is a you can say formation of something, right? Like protein synthesis, carbohydrate formation, complex carbohydrate formation. You will find that water molecule is being released, and when you will give that water back to the molecule, substance will take their individual component and they will get separated. Like in this reaction you can see this segment has given hydrogen, this segment has given hydroxide ion, energy was used up, right? And water molecule is released and the bond is formed. But if we are going to give this water back to the molecule, so they will take their hydroxide and hydrogen atom and they will get separated. So it's become hydrolysis reaction. Now what is a temperature buffer? Now why I'm saying temperature buffer, because if you'll see the range, like water has a tendency to absorb the heat, right? And they try to resist change in temperature up to certain extent, like, so it provides a temperature buffer so that many reaction in the cell can catalyzed by enzymes, right? So all enzymatic activity have a optimum temperature in which they work best. Beyond that temperature, you will find that they are getting denatured and they are no longer available to do the reaction. So water helps to buffer the temperature change in cell, right? Because first of all, the best property is they have a high specific heat capacity, and due to this high specific heat capacity, it makes a water molecule a best temperature buffer, right? So if you'll see this particular graph, the x-axis shows the temperature, the y-axis shows the reaction velocity. So as the temperature increasing, the reaction activity is also increasing, and at this particular time or at this particular temperature, this enzyme is working best, right? Because the peak is highest. Beyond that, if you're increasing the temperature, it's getting denatured. So denaturation is a sudden dip in the graph. It goes like this, and you will find that that enzyme is no longer available to do the function because denaturation has occurred. And during the process of denaturation, the enzymes lost its stable structure. All the bonds, the primary bonds and the supporting bonds are broken, and the enzyme is totally denatured. It's no longer going to work. Now the question is, who is helping in maintaining this high specific heat capacity? So this high specific heat capacity is a gift of hydrogen bond. Hydrogen bond is a very friendly bond, right? Why I'm saying friendly bond? Because it immediately forms, right? And the condition required for the hydrogen bond is to hydrogen must come in between two electronegative element. So whenever you are making a hydrogen bond, you will find that hydrogen is in between two oxygen, like see here, this, right? You can see between two delta negative there is a delta positive charge which hydrogen have. So this bonding is you can say continuously going on, and it makes the compound more stable and also help in maintaining its high heat capacity. Water maintains by all biological structures. Very best feature I feel, like we must appreciate water because water is maintaining everything as it is. They are not manipulating the substance which is going inside the water. Like take an example of the sugar molecule. If the sugar is getting dissolved, the property of the sugar is not going to lost, right? The identity, the property, everything retained as it is. If you talk about salt, of course they will also get dissolved, but the property of the salt is not going to fade away. So even though there are many biological molecules are dissolved in water or they reacts in water, right? All metabolic reaction takes place in water. That means water maintains the structure of the substances, whether it's a plasma membrane structure which is made up of phospholipid, the upper part, the round structure which you can see here, this is your phospholipid head which interacts with water, and the tail part is made up of lipid which generally hydrophobic in nature and they repel it. So there is no attraction of water with this tail part. If you see the foldings of the enzyme or protein, right, that is also driven or controlled by water, because the structure, the hydrogen bond or any supportive bond which is present in the protein, that is maintained by water. So you can say Water drives the folding of the amino acid chain, right? As different types of amino acid needs and avoid interacting with water depending on what type of function they are doing, right? If they are working in polar condition, of course they will get dissolved. If they are working in non-polar condition, they are not going to get dissolved, and without the proper shape, protein would be unable to perform their native structure or native function just because of this. And when we'll talk about the DNA, water surrounds the DNA to maintain the double helical form of the structure. The structure of DNA is highly compact and very unique in terms of twisted, in the way of twisted ladder, right? So again, this form is also maintained by water. So of course, we must say thanks to water to maintain all these biological molecule in its own original form and in the function. Next section of the topic will talk about what is the consequences of the hydrogen bond and how this hydrogen bond is helping in giving a unique property to the water. So if you see the atomic structure that is given by Bohr, that all atom is consist of fundamental particles, right? And when we say fundamental particles, we have neutron as the first fundamental particle, then we have proton, then we have electron, and there are imaginary orbits in the atom. According to Bohr, he has suggested that two fundamental particles, that is proton and neutron, they are present in the nucleus, and electron revolve around the nucleus in a orbit, right? And the charge take carries by these fundamental particles are: the positive charge is carried by protons, electron will carry the negative charge, and neutron there is no charge. So electrically you will find that atom is neutral because the number of protons and the number of electrons are always same. There is no change. So plus minus values are same, right? There is a chances where the electron can come out from the orbit, so to create ions in the atom. Okay, now, so according to the standard model of particle physics, we know that protons and the neutrons make up the nucleus and electrons are revolving. Just now I concluded this point. But the electron in an atom are attracted to a proton in a nucleus by a electromagnetic force between the nucleus and the electron which is revolving around the atom. So that means positive charge is attracting the negative charge. That's an idea. And electrons orbit the nucleus in multiple shells are there. It's not like only one or two shells. The electron can change its state. When we say change state, that means they can go to lower orbit or they can jump and they can go to the next orbit. Now the condition is when they are going to the next orbit, when they gain energy from the surrounding. Now the question is when they are coming back, they will come back when they will release those energies which helped the electron to go to the next transition state, next orbit. So you will find that there are lots of um, going and coming process going on by the electron within an atom, right? And within the cells, they keep on moving. Now if you talk about the bonding nature of the atom, so generally you will find Either there is a sharing of electrons, like if you have something and you feel that you want to do a business and you need a partner, of course you look for the partner who is of your same level. When we say same level, the idea is both have same kind of ideology regarding the business which you want to start, right? So sharing of electrons takes place in the non-metals, like take an example H2, N2, C2, right? Sorry, not C2, Cl2, then F2, I2, Br2, right? So all these atoms are non-metal and they make a covalent bond. There is another way of making a bond which is called ionic bond, in which there is a complete transfer of electrons. So when we say transfer, that means one atom has have an extra electron they are giving to another atom which is electron deficient, right? And in both the situation, when there is a sharing, the bond which is formed called covalent bond, and in case of complete transferring of electron, the bond which is formed, that's ionic bond, right? So these chemical bond is a strong attraction between the atoms, or you can say between the ions, right, which makes the formation of a chemical compound, right? And due to this bonding, you will get whether it's a non-polar covalent bond, polar covalent bond, ionic bond, and hydrogen bond, right? Now, when we say non-polar covalent bond, that means there is no charge formation. Means is Meaning is it is a covalent bond, but there is no charge formation. Like take an example of O2. Both oxygen will give equal number of electrons because both have same electronegativity, so there is no formation of charge. Like N2, both nitrogen needs 3 electrons to become stable, right? So they will make a triple covalent bond, and there is no charge formation here also. But in case of polar covalent bond where there is a charge formation, let's take an example HCl, hydrochloric acid. Hydrogen have 1 electron, chlorine have 7 electron, right? Both need support, right? How? Hydrogen need at least 2 electrons in the last shell and chlorine needs 8 electron. So both will help each other by sharing. But chlorine is more electronegative, so you will find that the chlorine have a negative charge and the hydrogen have a positive charge on it. That makes the bond polar covalent bond. Ionic bond, just now we have discussed. Ionic bond is formed by complete transfer of electrons between an atom, and hydrogen bond we have discussed, where when hydrogen comes in between two electronegative element, hydrogen bond is formed. So covalent bond, as I said, there is a two way of covalent covalency. One way is non-polar covalent bond formation and a polar covalent bond formation. When the electrons are shared equally means, like take an example of O2, Cl2, N2, H2, right? F2, Br2, I2, both are same and both need to be stable. So they are sharing the electron in such a way that at the end there is no electron, there is no charge formation on them. That is why they are non-polar covalent bond. In this case, you can see the diagrams shows that there is two different types of atoms are there, right? So two different types of atom means both have both have a need of being stable, but their sizes are different, right? So you will find there's unequal electron sharing is going on, and due to this unequal electron sharing, you will find a charge is developed on the atom, right? Let's talk about ionic bond. So for formation of ionic bond, first thing you need ions. A species which have a positive charge, we call them cations, and a species which have a negative charge, we call them anions. Like take an example. All metals forms plus charge, all non-metal forms negative charge. So in this case, Na plus is a cation, chloride minus is your anion, and if you can combine them, they are combining due to electronegative due to electrostatic force of attraction. An atom is combined to form a molecule which is NaCl. So this is a basic idea about how ionic bond is formed. Again, let's talk about hydrogen bond because we are studying water topic. So we must understand how hydrogen bond is formed, right? So first of all, water is a polar substance. When we say polar substance, that means there will be a slight positive and a slight negative charge on the atom. And the attraction between the slightly positive and the slightly negative region of the two different polar molecules will help in the formation of hydrogen bond. So in this case, you can see this is delta positive, this is your delta negative, and there is a chance of charge formation here, right? I mean, the chance of attraction, force of attraction will be here, and hydrogen bond will be formed. And always remember, whenever you are drawing hydrogen bond in your exam, you must show in a dotted line. It should not be a line like how we draw for covalent bond. It's always dotted. Now let's connect to the water structure. So this is your atom, right? Water have oxygen. Oxygen have 8 protons, 8 neutron, and there is 6 electrons in the outermost shell, right? And this is hydrogen. Hydrogen have only 1 electron, and this electron is being shared between oxygen. So this hydrogen also shared 1 electron with oxygen. So at then you will find that outermost shell of oxygen atom is 8 electrons, so they are stable. And for hydrogen, they need 2 duet configuration. So they will take 1 electron from oxygen and 1 they have. So it will be a sharing basis. So duet is also fulfilled. So in this way, they are making a covalent bond, and it is a polar covalent bond. Yes, water is polar in nature because of the presence of charge. Just now we have discussed. And this is happening due to unequal sharing of electrons between oxygen and hydrogen. And this arrow shows that the atom is towards oxygen, right? Because oxygen is a big atom and they pull the charge towards itself because of higher electronegativity value. So the shape of the water becomes bent shape, or you can say V shape, right? So to understand this polarity nature or electronegativity nature, so let's take this example. So hydrogen of water molecule, the one proton in the nucleus of the hydrogen has less pull on the shared electron, right? Because there is just one proton is there. And if you see the oxygen, they have 8 protons. So of course 8 proton will attract the bonded pair of electron more towards oxygen. That is why the charge is developed. Hydrogen bonds forms between water molecule. So of course we have just now discussed that due to difference in the charge, and there's a partial positive and partial negative charge is developed on the water molecule, which help to interact with other water molecule, and their interaction further leads to formation of hydrogen bond, and this hydrogen bond helps in maintaining the structure and the properties of the water. Each single water molecule can bind with four other water molecules by hydrogen bond, and due to this hydrogen bond they have higher heat capacity. And it's very easy that one water molecule will leave the compound and another will join it immediately, and that's why the stability and retainment of water remain for a longer time. Like you can see, as one water molecule is going, another is easily making bond with the water molecule, so it becomes easy for water to maintain the structure. And water's ability to attract polar and charged molecule is granted a number of emergent property. Let's talk about the property number one, that is cohesion force. Number seven, the cohesion force is the force of attraction between two similar kind of object. Like one water molecule will attract another water molecule. Adhesive force is a force of attraction between two dissimilar substances, right? Like when water is going up into the xylem, the water molecule interact with the xylem wall from inside, right? So that is a property coming. Then solvency, because you can mix anything, and of course the best properties, high heat capacity, and collectively all these properties makes the water unique and a primary medium for the life. Let's talk about the cohesion of water molecule due to hydrogen bonding and consequences for organisms. So hydrogen bond forms between water molecule, just now we have seen, and water's ability to continuously making hydrogen bond within itself makes the water a kind of slightly sticky, because the bond is forming and breaking. So this property is called cohesion property, in which the same kind of molecules are combining and they are sticking together. So the cohesion of water molecules allow plant to move water from the earth to the stem, and all this is happening under tension in xylem. And of course there are other physical processes which is helping the water to moving up into the plant, but here water cohesive properties playing a major role, which helping the water to go up into the plant. Second best example of cohesion in what cohesion of water molecule is retains water on earth's surface to serve as habitat, and also contribute to the physical properties of water important to living organism. All living organism requires water. It's impossible that life will be without water. We cannot imagine a life without it. And you will see the transportation of the water. The water uh, is moving under tension in the xylem. Like there is a, when we say tension, that means the water is have a sticky nature with, first of all, within themselves, and then they are sticking to the dead tissues of the xylem. So if you see the properties of the xylems are quite long. You can see long and like a tube, like a hollow cylinder, hollow tube, and which makes a continuous channel for the plant, which connects root to the leaf. Why leaf? Because photosynthesis takes place there. So that is an important area where we need. So cohesion is a force by which individual molecule of the same type attract and associate, like they are sticking together. and hydrogen makes water molecules stick to each other more strongly, right? And that is why, because of that, cohesion is important in transporting water through xylem in the vascular bundle, right? And when the water is getting evaporated in the leaf, again the water from the root is coming up slowly into the xylem, and in this way the water keep on flowing, like you can see here. So on the top, what is happening? Water getting evaporated, they are replaced by water from within the cell, because the adjacent cell is giving water. So more water molecule moves from xylem into the leaf cell, creating a tension. And this tension is nothing, a force to pull water against gravity. And this tension is transmitted down a continuous column, which is called cohesive force, right, of water molecule all the way to the root. And in this way the water will keep on moving. There are many hypotheses has also given, like, which is widely accepted, and it makes sense also when you will understand the process, that due to transpiration of water from the leaf, right, so the water is coming out in the form of a vapor, and the water is coming out through stomata, right, and this stomatal opening is very important for gases exchange. So as transpiration occurs, it create a kind of negative pressure, right, or you can say kind of suction pressure or tension, you can say. And this tension is actually created by transpiration process, and this transpiration process create a demand of water in the leaf, which is being fulfilled by the other cells nearby, right? And overall demand is being fulfilled by the soil, by the roots. So a tension created by transpiration pull water in the plant xylem, drawing the water upward in the same way that you draw water upward when you suck on a straw. In a very similar fashion the process is going on, and cohesion pulls up water in a chain, like it's a continuous chain which helps to go up, so that water molecule should not creates any gap between them, and in this way water will go up. You can see this image, so you will understand that this is a very important process, maintaining water, right, in a leaf, just because of photosynthesis. Let's talk about surface tension. So water surface, as there are some organisms, for them surface act as a habitat, and they're able to grow, they're able to stay just because of surface tension. So surface tension, a property of a surface of a liquid that allow it to resist an external force due to the cohesive nature of its molecule. And water has a high surface tension, like water striders, they live on the surface of calm and unpolluted, you can say, water bodies. You can see here in this diagram. And there are not only this, there are mass of an insect is not great enough to break the surface tension. So imagine they're also not capable to break the surface tension. In case of plant, you will find that there is a wax cuticle layer, and these wax cuticle prevent the insect from getting wet. And when the uh, water insects move over the surface of water, they are not disturbing the surface tension. And this surface tension is a gift of cohesive force, and that is due to hydrogen bonding. Not only this, when you see the surface level what is happening, so you will find that there are few other water molecules to bond to, since there is air above. This results in a stronger bond between those water molecules that actually do come in contact with one another. So in this diagram you can see the water molecules which are on the top, they have more connection, they have more um, stability, they are slightly stronger because they have to maintain the boundary, and the surface tension is also maintained by this phenomena and makes the layer slightly elastic, right? Because when the insects are going to sit or when they are going to walk, the surface tension is not uh, degraded, or you can say it's going to maintain, it's not going to lost, right? So water molecules are more attracted to each other due to the cohesive force, right? And that's very unique property. We always get attracted, we never get attracted what we want, we always get attracted what we are, right? So we have also cohesive and adhesive property. This is an example of surface tension, like water strider on walk on water and provide a stable environment for organisms that live on the water surface, right? To break through the surface of the water, enough force must be applied to break not only one, many hydrogen bond, and that is not possible by few insects. Right? So water is strong. This shows this water strider is sitting on the water. The surface tension of water allows some seeds to get dispersed from the parent body. That is also a function you can see. Okay, let's have one question. What kind of beer dissolved in water? You can pause this video and think about it. I am giving you an answer for this. Polar beer. Okay, let's go to the next. Now we'll talk about the adhesion property of water, right? And this property again have impacted organism. When we say adhesive force or adhesion, the attraction between water and the other material, which is not water but different. So adhesion makes surface wet. So when you are feeling wet, that means the water has affinity with the surface, but that is not due to cohesion force, that is due to the adhesive force. So the wet nature is due to the adhesion force, and hydrogen bonds are again responsible for this. Okay, how? Let's talk about that in the next slide. So hydrogen bond forms between water and the polar or charged molecule like this. Suppose this is the surface, and let's imagine surface have some charge like hydroxide ion or oxygen, right? So water molecule have hydrogen, they can bind with the with the partial negative of oxygen. So again you can see hydrogen bond is formed because same condition, oxygen is electronegative, hydrogen is electropositive. Oxygen have partial negative charge, hydrogen has partial positive charge. Again you have oxygen here, so there is a chance of hydrogen bond. So it allows to develop a property called adhesive property, and this adhesion of water molecules to the other molecules makes the water easily to hold something, right? And that's make water as a hydrophilic in nature. And this hydrophilicity of the nature of the water helps the water to go up into the tree, into the leaf. Right? They are creating a capillary action here. That means water is connected to another water molecule by cohesion force, and the water is connected to the walls of the xylem, that is adhesive force, right? So this adhesion is creating a capillary action which permits water to move through soil even against the force of gravity, and that is why water goes up, right? And this is very unique property because uh, I mean water adheres to most surface and can be drawn up long column like xylem, so they can go up. So cohesion is far stronger force in xylem transport than adhesion. Cohesion can resist tension. That's the point, right? Okay. Now when we talk about the adhesive force, that means water is connecting to another molecule. Like let's take an example of glucose molecule. So glucose molecule have lots of oxygen molecule, lots of hydroxide ion. So these hydroxyl ions, these hydroxyl groups of the glucose molecule combined with hydrogen of the water molecule by hydrogen bond, and all these interaction is due to the charges, and as a result of this charge, water can form hydrogen bond with glucose molecule, and this makes glucose molecule easy to get transported through blood in the animal. Second is, of course, we have talked about the charges. So due to this charge and due to this electrostatical attraction between the ions makes the water molecules a best conductor. Conductor, why I'm saying conductor, because they are holding something, they are carrying something, so they are a good carrier, you can say. So cellulose is a polymer, right? Cellulose, we all know cellulose is a kind of complex carbohydrate, and this is made up of a unit called glucose unit present in a plant cell wall. Because of the polar hydroxyl group, water will form hydrogen bond with cellulose, and this allows structure with a lot of cellulose to absorb water, and the water stick to the cellulose via hydrogen bond. So imagine paper towel is made from wood pulp, which is primarily plant cellulose, right? And you can imagine why this is happening. Have you observed any something like meniscus in the test tube? Sometime which meniscus we should accept, right? Upper or the lower. So this you will occur when water is pulled through a narrow tube, or you can say cylinder, and space as a result of cohesion and adhesion, which are two different properties right now. Cohesion is attraction between water molecules, whereas adhesion is attraction between two different substances, water and some other substances. And capillary actions occurs when adhesion is greater than cohesion. And this provide us with a meniscus, which is shown in this particular diagram, right? You can see, or you can see in the graduated cylinder. Other capillary action is, what is this? This action is actually a movement of water through a narrow tube, right? And this will help in, which is often in opposition to external force like gravity, right? So if you will see this on extreme right side of the screen, there is this thin capillary tube is put it on the water, and the tube has taken the water up. So addition of water to the walls of the vessels will cause an upward force on the liquid at the edge, and the result is in a meniscus which turns upward and it's keep on going like this. This we must understand the use, the function, the properties, how these properties of water helping the water to move up into the xylem tube. This is water molecule interacting with the wall, adhesive force. One water molecule can combine with another water molecule, cohesion force. So all these are helping to take the water up to the leaf, right? Adhesion is also going on here in the root, where in the soil you will get water is attached to the surface of soil particles, and plant take in this water via the process of osmosis. When we say osmosis, the meaning is water is being moved from the area of higher water potential to the area of lower water potential through a membrane. So membrane is acting as a root hair cells have a membrane and the water is moving. So it's osmosis, right? Capillary action in soil, the primary force that enables the soil to retain water. So in the same way that water moves upward through the tube against the force of gravity, water moves upward through the soil pore or the space between the soil particle, and the height of these water rises is depend upon the type of soil, depend upon the what kind of soil it is there. That will decide the capillary action of the water. Let's talk about the solvent property of the water, which have a very vital role because they are helping in transportation, maintaining metabolism. So lots of uh, processes and functions are being done by this property. So first of all, when we say a solvent, that means you can dissolve anything to make a solution. And when water is a solvent, you will find that when you are when a sugar or salt you can take, right? These are solute. When a solute dissolved in water, what is happening? Their molecules get separated, right? And they get surrounded by the water molecule, and that's called solvation. So solvation is the interaction of the solvent with the dissolved solute. If it is highly soluble, you will find that it is completely dissolved. Like this example, you can see NaCl example I have used in the beginning to show the hydration cell formation. What is a solvent? Again, this solvent nature is due to polarity, and that polarity is due to presence of oxygen atom and hydrogen atom. Both have slight positive and slight negative charge, right? And these charges are helping in interaction with other charge molecule, and that makes it solvent in nature. Not everything will dissolve in water. Of course, water is not a universal. You can't say it's a universal, but I mean, you can say 90% of the things can be dissolved, right? But molecules that are non-polar or they don't have any charge on them, how they will interact with the water? Because water have a charge to interact, but other substance which is not having charge, how they will interact? So they are not going to interact. So you can say water molecules are behaving like a hydrophobic molecule because they are not able to interact with the polar substances. So they are insoluble. So hydrophobic molecules are attracted to other hydrophobic molecule, like oil will be oil will be mixed with oil, right? Right? Because the same polarity, because they are both are non-polar. So they will clump together when exposed to water. And clumping will be very unique. You can see here in the animation that all lipids are hydrophobic, so they do not mix with water, right? And when we say solvent property, the best is with the best idea of this solvent property is to allow medium for metabolism. So inside the cell, you will get lots of water. Around 70% to 80% of the cell contain water, and this water have everything: carbohydrate, fats, lipid, amino acid, protein, enzymes, sugar, acids, right? And all these, some are dissolved, some are not dissolved. Those who are not dissolved, they are protected by some kind of layer from the water, and these dissolved substances are needed to carry out all the processes in the cell. When we say processes in the cell, the idea is all kind of metabolic action, right? All kind of catabolic reaction or anabolic reaction. Anabolic means any constructive work like photosynthesis. Catabolic reaction means some kind of destructive process, right? Where take an example of digestion. Digestion is a destructive process. We call them catabolic reaction. Respiration is a catabolic reaction, right? Water solvent property allow it to be used in medium for metabolism. Like as I said, all anabolic and catabolic reaction is occurring due to this solvent property inside the cell. Not only the uh, processes, it's also help to dissolve substances like sugar, salt, and while movement of water, these substances are also getting transported simultaneously. So if you see the animal's blood, there are lots of nutrients, lots of proteins, salts will be there, and all these are in the dissolved form. Your metabolic waste, right? Your blood cells, proteins, ions, gases, nutrients, other wastes, everything is being dissolved. But there is a separate section for all these substances to get used up in the body. If it is a waste, it will get filtered in the kidney. If the nutrient need to be reached to each and every cells, of course they will get reached, because nutrients are dissolved and water will help in transportation. As I said, not everything will be transported in water. There are some lipid molecules, some fat molecules which are hydrophobic in nature, so they are not dissolved in water. So now the question is how to take them from one point to another point. Yes, we can carry it by covering it with the a kind of protein layer which helps in transportation. Let's talk about the physical properties of water and the consequences for animal in the aquatic habitat. So the physical property of water allow it to be a medium for the life. Like when we see the medium for life, the meaning is supporting, like without that medium it's impossible for the life to get sustained. And the physical property is a kind of measurable behavior of a matter that exists without the matter reacting or interacting, like the color, opacity, volume, how much volume there, length, right? But when we say chemical property, like whether it's toxic, whether it's reactive or non-reactive, whether it's acid or base, all these things will come under chemical properties. Physical properties such as buoyancy. So buoyancy is you can say it's upward force applied to an object when it is immersed in a liquid. Like when you are trying to put anything in a bucket, like suppose the bucket is filled with water and you are going to put something inside, so you will find that whatever force you are applying to put that into the bucket, the same force is coming from downward to that object, and that is called buoyancy, buoyant force. And this buoyant force help to maintain the uh, processes. Like take an example, buoyancy depend on density. If the density of the object is lower than the density of the liquid, buoyant force will be greater than the force due to the gravity and object will float. And reverse, if the density of the object is greater than the density of the liquid, the buoyant force will be less than the force due to gravity and object will get sink. So imagine the item drop into the cup might have the same mass, but they differ in density. And density is the key point for buoyancy, for the buoyant force. So the more denser an object, the less likely the buoyant force will be able to overcome, and the force gravity, more likely the item will sink. And reverse, when the less dense an object, like suppose cellulose cork is there, the most likely to buoyant force will be able to overcome the force of gravity and it is going to float on the surface. And the same idea is there in the animals also. So bird main limb bones are hollow and with struts inside to provide strength to them, and this makes them strong but not dense. Because they are not dense, so the buoyant force of water is able to hold the bird on the surface and it's not allowing it to sink because of this. Now, in case of fish, you will find bony fish can change their density by changing the size of the structure called bladder. And this bladder keep on changing. By filling the swim bladder with gases, a fish will become less dense and able to move upward in water. And by removing air from the swim bladder, right, a fish will become more denser and it will able to move downward in water. So in this way they control their movement as well as direction in the water. Next property is viscosity. Viscosity is like is very cool property, you will say. Why I'm saying cool? Because it's a measure of a fluid tendency to flow, like how much thick the solution is. If the solution will be thick, they will move very slow, right? If it is thin, they will move very fast. So water molecules slide past each other very easily below the surface. So hence water flow through gaps, pore becomes more easy, right? And viscosity is due to the amount of friction the molecule of liquid experiencing as they are flowing over each other. So you can see this honey still taking time to come down, whereas vegetable oil immediately go down. So you can see the what is happening when they are less viscous and when they are more viscous. So water is more viscous than some other substance because it can form hydrogen bond. right? And the hydrogen bond increase the friction and reduce the water tendency to flow, and that is why they become less viscous. Although still a great medium for transport, blood does not flow as easily as pure water because there are some other things like blood cells, dissolved substances, which increases viscosity and the movement decreases. Thermal conductivity, of course, the best thermal conductor. And when we say thermal conductivity, it is a measure of a material's ability to move heat across the gradient or throughout the surface. The thermal conductivity of the material is determined by how easily energy transfer is going through the material. So when you're holding something and you started heating one of the edge, what you will find that it will take some time the heat to reach to your hand, right? So that is due to the thermal conductivity. Physical property, again we are talking about the thermal conductivity. So less conducive are styrofoam, air, wool, fat. More conductive is water and copper. So these are some examples you can see from the left side on the top. The thick layer of fat provide insulation from cold ocean. That is why animal can survive in marine mammals in the area where there is less temperature. In this case, the person will more quickly become hypothermic in cold water than the cold air because the water rapidly conduct body heat away from the body, and in this way you will feel cold. What is happening to these sheeps? A thick layer of wool traps the body heat generated during the metabolism, and that keep them warm. The water in blood is carrying heat generated at contracting muscles to the skin where it will lost from the body. And this form of thermoregulation as the body change blood supply in response to change in activity. So you will release lots of heat to maintain or control the temperature. Specific heat capacity. What is this? This is actually a property which used the quantity of heat required to increase the temperature of a substance per unit mass. So water has the highest specific heat capacity of any liquid, which means it takes lots of heat to raise the temperature of water. Even you are heating a 60, 70, 60 or 70 degrees Celsius, suppose the water is not going to boil because water holds up to 100 degrees Celsius. So imagine the holding capacity. So water have the high heat capacity and is caused by many hydrogen bond, and each bond is weak, but there are so many of them that collectively make a big impact on the molecule, right? This is two things. Air heats up easily because their specific heat is only 1007 joule per kg per kelvin, but whereas if we talk about the water, they have 4183 joule per kilo kelvin. So more energy is raised to temperature of water compared to air, so it does not heat up in sense of water. Example, as we have discussed that water have high heat capacity, water heats up and cool down very slowly. So it takes some time. So this provide for a stable internal environment and the habitat for the living organism. So that's best for us because living body contains a lots of water. Body temperature is slow to fluctuate when environmental temperature changes, right? So water high heat capacity helps body temperature to slightly increase or decrease in a slow manner, not very fast. Another example, the temperature of aquatic habitat. Their temperature also increases and decreases very fast. I'm sorry, not fast, slowly, right? When surrounding air temperature becomes too hot or cold, the water must absorb or lose a lot of heat energy before the change in temperature. So that makes, again, making a suitable surrounding for organism to survive. So if we can compare with water and air, what kind of physical property they have. Let's see the buoyant force. So water have higher buoyant force, whereas air have lower. Viscosity, again water have higher. Thermal conductivity, water have higher. High heat capacity, water have higher, whereas air is everything low. So you can imagine how unique and stable water molecule is. There are the physical properties of water have a major consequences for how organisms live in a habitat. So all polar animal which are in the polar region, right, or ringed seal, both live in Arctic where they interact with water, air, and land. Both of these animals have adapted to their Arctic habitat and the consequences of the physical property of water that they encounter. So both have a different environmental stress, right? So you will find that ringed seal buoyancy in water allows seal to stay afloat without expending a lot of energy. However, the water is viscous, so the seal has adaptation for streamlining it, swim through it. Water is a greater thermal conductivity than air, so the seal need to insulate itself with blubber to maintain body temperature. However, because the water has high heat capacity, the temperature of the water does not change as rapidly as the air around it, and that makes habitat suitable for the seal to survive. Black-throated loon is, again, they have also such condition. Buoyancy in water allows the bird to stay floating without expanding lots of energy. However, when flying through air, the bird must expend energy to stay aloft. And air is not viscous, so loon can easily move through it when flying. So what you will find that the loon doesn't lose much heat to the air because air have low thermal conductivity. However, because the air has a low specific heat, its temperature changes rapidly, and that makes them to stay. Now we are going to start with the HL portion. In the HL portion, we have two units, two subunits. First is extraplanetary origin of water on Earth and the reason for it retention. So it's very unique idea when we talk about the origin of life, right? We always have a point of how extraplanetary origin of water on Earth begin, right? So let's talk about that. So there was extremely hot condition on Earth 4.5 billion years ago. So at that time the temperature was quite high, impossible for water vapor to condense into the liquid form, right? Because temperature is high. So asteroid and meteoroids are most likely Earth's surface of water. So asteroids still contain ice and amino acids, so critical for formation of life. So whatever we need, what we need amino acid and we need water. Both are there. Ice are there, that means water is there. So meteoroids break off from asteroids like some kind of chondrites, and they contain water trapped in mineral crystal. And in this way you will find that uh, the origin of life on Earth is just starting. So, two 4.5 billions old meteorite supports this hypothesis, what I am talking about. So, these meteorites, you write, they are originated from asteroid Vesta in the asteroid belt between Jupiter and Mars, and they have a deuterium protium ratio that matches with current Earth. So we have got an idea from there. But when we talk about the origin of water, there is evidence that numerous planetary bodies, including asteroids and comets, containing large amount of water in the form of crystal, you can say, ice crystals. At present, asteroids up to a few hundred kilometers across seems the most likely source of most of Earth water. Significantly, the type of asteroid that dominates the water asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. An artistic conception of the early Earth showing a surface, right? This is an artificial image, results in extrusion of deep-seated magma on the surface. At the same time, distal portion of the surface could have retained liquid water. That means, so artist's impression of the early image, huge impact generated lava lakes coexisted with surface liquid water. So all these make sense that yes, water was there. Water retains on Earth. So the distance of the Earth from the Sun keeps temperature on the Earth below that need to vaporize water. So that's the best thing, right? If water is getting evaporated, then the whole purpose will go. So that is why Sun and the Earth distance is in such a way that water should not evaporate. The evidence, if we'll talk about the evidence, some of the evidences for extraplanetary origin of water comes from studying the deuterium to hydrogen ratio in water. So in case of deuterium, is first of all, deuterium is isotope of hydrogen, meaning it is the same element but have added neutrons. They have slight more neutrons. So the relationship between the search of extraterrestrial life and presence of water. Let's talk about astrobiology. What is astrobiology? Given the size of the universe, there are at least 100 billion stars in our home galaxy alone, and perhaps 100 billion galaxies of much the same size scattered throughout the deep space. Few scientists believe that Earth is the only home for life, but actually it's not true. Astrobiology is study of origin, distribution, and possibility of life in the universe, not only Earth. So there's a search of life in the universe. Astrobiology, while no clear sign of life have even been detected, astrological looks for a set of circumstances and chemicals through thought to be required for life to exist. Circumstances like Luke having all the right chemical at the same place at the same time. Time on Earth, the evolution of complex life took millions of years. Location, not too hot, not too cold to have liquid water on the surface. So everything was in a very appropriate manner so that life should start by the formation of biomolecules and their interaction with other biomolecules. Right? So water is essential for all life. Water likely arrived on early Earth from asteroid. In fact, water is so vital that the presence of water is precedent to the search of extraterrestrial life. So imagine that without water nothing is possible. Locations of these astrobiologists search for extraterrestrial object that falls in Goldilocks zone, meaning it is just the right distance from the star from water to remain at least periodically in liquid form on the surface. So this is Goldilocks in star light on planet reveals the sunlight on Earth. This is the Mars. Curiosity mission with was to find evidence of past or present habitat conditions on the surface of Mars, but it was we have not got any information. So Mars remained the best candidate for discovery of extraterrestrial life because both the NASA rover's Curiosity and Perseverance that clearly determined the ancient Mars was significantly more wet and warm and was an entirely habitable place for microbes life. All the ingredients needed for the life was there. The proper chemicals and consistent source of energy as well as the water was there. So yes, wildlife was there. That makes sense. Europa is a moon of Jupiter. Its surface is made up of water ice. And if you analyze the features, I mean the ice surface, it shows that gradually moving, perhaps evidence of tectonic activity or volcanic eruptions underneath. So, if true, this activity could provide enough heat to generate a liquid ocean underneath the ice. And this hypothetical combination of volcanic activity and the liquid water has promoted some scientists to speculate that Europa could harbor life. So, let's see what's future. So, the topic ends here. And in the next session, I'm going to talk about some paper 1 and some paper 2 type of questions, and we'll go ahead in this way, and we'll try to complete the portion within 3 months from today onward. See you in the next channel, next video with on next day. Enjoy, bye, and if you have a doubt, please write me on the chat. I will happy to answer you. Goodbye.